Thank you, Andy and Bill. That wasn't boring at all. I have a sort of an outline, a handout. Yeah, if you could just hit that side of the room and look at this. This, you guys just pass that around and back. That'd be helpful. Thank you. Thank you for having me today. For Michael and Chris, who's not here, thank you very much, and for Paul Herman. I'm going to give you a 30-second background on me so you know who I am and my experience and whatnot, and then we're going to get into really financial planning. I grew up in the Boston area, just south of Boston. Went to school in upstate New York. Enjoyed it. Had a lot of fun. I was able to play golf, hockey, and lacrosse. Lacrosse for only 2 years because I realized right behind the gym, behind the athletic fields, we had a free golf course. And I got totally burned out of lacrosse, so I was able to play golf for free back there. Upstate New York, golf in the early spring means it's nothing but trudging through the mud and still snow. So it was, even if you hit a beautiful shot in the middle of the fairway, it's probably going to be plugged. But we got by it. It was still a lot of fun. I want to use the outline here. I started, my background, I got into banking, learned a lot about banking in a short period of time. Also realized that banking to me became pretty boring. I wanted to get into more interesting financial investment help and advice. So I was able to join a mutual fund company. Did that for about a year and a half. That was terrific because I really learned all about mutual funds and how they work. They're great investment tools. Got lucky because the fund company was bought out and relocated everybody up to Enfield, Connecticut. I was based in Greenwich at the time, and I didn't want to head up to Enfield, so I was able to join. And also, I'm not a city guy. I didn't want to have to trek into New York City, so I was lucky in the sense that I was able to join the Westport office of Shearson. This was in '93. Shearson, through a bunch of different name changes, became Shearson Lehman, Smith Barney Shearson. And I joined my partner, one of my three partners now, his name is Erwin Riven. I was his assistant and then junior partner, and then we became partners, and now 23 years later we've built a team of 6 folks, still in Westport but with UBS, and we help individuals and their families grow, protect, enjoy, and then eventually pass on their wealth. We do that not, traditionally the old school method was being a stockbroker, and that's a dinosaur. I think that is clearly a dying breed. Trying to pick and choose stocks to grow your wealth is too much like gambling. It's a minefield of risk out there trying to do that, and so the industry has evolved to financial planning. And trying to smooth out results, but then step back a bit and look at the big picture for our clients and help them plan towards a successful and comfortable financial future. That's what we do in a nutshell. I give you guys a ton of credit because you are the ones who have the guts to take the game of golf to a profession. And now it's your job to move that profession to a career, and the only way you're going to do that is with a plan, quite honestly. And there's you could be the absolute best golf professional and run the terrific shop and have your lesson book totally full and be terrific at your people skills and put all that together, and you're going to have a good income. But a good income doesn't get you anywhere towards a financial plan. It's a tool that you have to use, but that good income is what a profession is all about, earning income from your job. We have to turn that into a career, which means a long-term plan to get there. The most important part of any long-term plan, and this is gonna come up often, is matching your spending to your income. And it doesn't matter if you're young or old, if you earn 50 grand or 500 grand. I have seen too many people outspend their earnings, even during their, it doesn't matter if it's during their peak earnings years or even in their retirement years. If your spending outpaces your income, you're doomed. So most important aspect of any financial plan is to be very common sense about your income. I'm sorry, about your spending. And in that regard, if you're married, your most important teammate in this is going to be your spouse. He or she, I think we're all guys in here, so your spouse, your wife, has to be completely on board and with you in this financial plan, because it starts with saving, a habit of saving. The only way you can have a habit of saving and make it a forced habit is to not spend all your income. So that is fundamentally the most important thing. Look at your budget. Look at your income coming in is a set amount, and then just examine what are you spending money on. And at the end of each month, on your average months, what's left at the end of the day. And it's very important to write it down. Don't eyeball it. Don't say, well, I keep an average something on my checking account. Just write it down. It doesn't take long at all to jot down where your bill's going, where you're paying money out each month. Spread that over a bunch of months, looking back on your checkbook and checking account, and see, is that matching my income coming in? Are there ways to minimize my spending so that I can save something each and every month? The only way a financial plan works, and it works great if you're young, is to get into that habit. And a habit is something you do constantly over and over and repeat it, is to make sure you're saving something every month. There's a mythical 1953 Yale study, and I call it mythical because it's an interesting story. For many years, lots of inspirational speakers and self-help books and videos forever have referenced this 1953 Yale study of successful people and how did they get successful, what was the magic to their success. And it was simply that they had a specific written goal that they were dedicated to reaching. And it was referenced so often that finally, 2011, someone said, well, let's research this, let's dig into this a little bit. And they literally couldn't find any specific Yale reference to the study. The archives, they interviewed past professors, they interviewed the class of 1953, who was supposedly this study was all about. No one could find any specific reference to it. So we're not sure if it existed. In 2014, Southern California University tried to replicate it, and they did, and they came to the same exact conclusion. So if it was mythical or not, it comes down to some common sense, and it boils down to that same fact that you are 80% more likely to achieve your goals if you have specific and written goals. So that brings us to the financial plan. Why would we not write down what your goals are and then build a plan to get there? It gives you a much higher probability to reach it. I have a goal, and it's my golf goal is to get my 12 handicap down to a 5. And I know it's not going to happen overnight, and I know I need to have a plan, so I wrote down my goal. And I've jotted down a plan how to get there. And it's not just to play more golf and see what happens. Hopefully, more golf is going to lead to better golf. You guys probably know better than anyone that's not how it works. So my plan is specific, and my actions are specific. I study how many 3 putts and 2 putts and 1 putts. I'm taking lessons on various aspects of my game. I'm documenting every round how many fairways I hit and how many greens in regulation, and really now I'm starting to study, to you guys it probably seems like common sense, but I have to realize I need to play defense and offense on the golf course. Defense means avoid the hazards, avoid trouble, set up each shot so that it gives me the best chance for my next shot to get me to par or maybe better than par. So I'm marching down this plan. I know it's going to be hard. I know it's going to be very difficult to whittle down to these single digits, but I think I have a chance to get there if I stay focused on my plan and the action steps of my plan. That's exactly analogous to your financial plan. The financial plan needs to have a set of goals, and it's not just one goal. And it needs to be a specific dollar amount tagged to that goal. We all are living similar lives, it just depends how we get there, but we all, very often, we have similar goals. It's, you find a great spouse, get married, you have kids, you're gonna wanna buy a house. So that might be a 5-year game plan to buy that first house. You have more kids, at some point, you're going to want to buy a little bit bigger house, so maybe that's the 10-year game plan. With kids, we all want to educate them. We know college costs an awful lot. College is going to cost anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000 today, depending on the school. And that's an 18, 19-year game plan from when you have kids. So we have to plan that out and get to our end result. The fact that we have a goal, a specific dollar amount, that's most important. We can map out getting there. And then we all want to retire. Andy and Bill did a great job showing all the complications and intricacies of different retirement plans out there. Those are the tools you can use, but we need to specify what is your retirement income going to look like. Do you foresee needing $100,000 in today's dollars? $100,000, is it 20 years from now? Is it 40 years from now? Well, let's put a specific time frame on that and then use the various tools out there to get there. A financial plan is a lot like a roadmap. A roadmap, you need to have a destination. If you don't have a destination, you're literally wandering out there. And it's very helpful to have milestones to reach towards your destination and to celebrate. If you and your spouse are saving 10% of your income each and every month, that's a great goal and target, and that can be combined via the retirement plans and your non-retirement plans. You don't want to save everything into a retirement plan because you will be penalized if you take that money out of any of these retirement plans. You will be penalized if you take that money out before age 59 and a half. You're going to want to buy that house before age 59 and a half. So you gotta, when we map out these different goals with the different time frames, then we use the tools out there, be it retirement plans or regular investment accounts, to properly and most tax efficiently get to the goal. We use a simple, when I'm talking about these different time frames, use a bucket of money concept. And so every goal is a different bucket of money. Now the bucket is just something that you put money into. So it doesn't have to be more complicated. Your different accounts can be like your different buckets. And it's an easy way to conceptualize what am I saving, how am I saving towards my different goals. Just think of these different buckets of money for the different goals. And again, it does allow you, and it's important that you monitor, I would recommend at least on a quarterly basis, how you're accomplishing or how you're marching towards your goal. That would be the milestones along the roadmap. Don't be the guy who's looking at his or her accounts and mutual funds and investments on a daily basis, because the volatility of the market will drive you nuts. Volatility is exaggerated these days. I think volatility is here to stay. And so it's the folks who, they end up making irrational emotional decisions on their investments if they're looking at it on a day-to-day and getting caught up in the day-to-day volatility. Think of the quarterly milestones and the yearly march towards your goal. I think that's important. Too often investors make emotional wrong decisions at the exact wrong time. They see the market going down, and the market will go down. It's not a smooth ride. They see the market going down, it goes down a little bit more, they say, oh my goodness, I don't want to lose my money, and they sell at the bottom. It's the exact wrong thing. And then once the market's marching up and up and up, they say, hey, I got to get a piece of this, and they buy at the top. Again, big mistake. You want to buy when something's low, certainly not sell it. And if anything, when something's high, maybe that's the time to rebalance and take a little bit of your chips off the table and buy something else that's still low. So don't get caught up in the ups and downs, and don't make the wrong decision at the wrong time based on valuation, ups and downs of the markets. Let's go back to that analogy. Most importantly, in your investment future, you have to play defense. I would think defense before offense. Some of the defensive plays to focus on goes back to that live within your means. You're never going to have anything to invest for the future if you're spending all your money now. So you and your partner needs to be on board with that. Run the budget, watch your spending. This is an obvious, I don't want to sound like your parents, but sometimes financial planning sounds like your mom or dad saying, be careful about this. Credit cards. Credit cards can be a killer. Credit cards, the interest rate that they charge, it's usually in the small print, and if you don't pay it off each and every month, they're going to hit you. And if you start to build up a balance on that credit card, that interest rate is going to build up and up. Some credit cards are charging anywhere from 15 to 20% and more today. That kills you. Would you go shopping at a store that has the rack 20% more for this jacket? No way. So be very careful of your credit card use. Try your darndest to pay it each month. That goes back to the basics of living within your means, so that you're not shopping at the most expensive rack. That will kill your long-term plan. Also, this becomes very important when you have a family. You got to protect your family. More often than not, we are all dual wage earners with us and our spouse. But if you have young kids and all of a sudden you get hit by a bus, you have to protect your family towards that. I would say that's an obligation that you have to your kids. And get term life insurance. Term life insurance is very cheap and inexpensive. Don't get caught into a trap of whole life insurance. There are very efficient, well-trained sales practices out there to try to get people to buy whole life, which is a combination of saving, investing, and life insurance. Because of all the fees built into all that, it's very inefficient at any one of those. Term insurance is the most efficient, cost-effective insurance you can buy, and you really only need term insurance when your kids are young, and you have a mortgage on your house, and you want to pay the college education down the road. Term insurance is quite cheap. For example, if you're a 40-year-old buying a 25-year term insurance, which kind of coincides with the time that your kids are going to need some financial coverage, and your wife, and you still have that big mortgage, $1 million worth of term insurance is only going to cost about $1,400 a year. And that's if you buy it direct. It might be even cheaper than that if you can participate in a group policy through your club employer. So I would not recommend, you really don't need insurance until you have a wife and kids. And then immediately you do need insurance. So that's playing defense first. Then we got to go investing for the long run. We got to play some offense. And that means, number one, if you're living within your means, you're not spending more than you're earning, then you can invest in yourself. contemplate it this way. You have all these bills you have to pay, but pay yourself first. Build that into your budget. Pay yourself 10% of your income each and every month. And then it looks and acts like one more bill, and try to not have expenses so high that you can't afford that. I would pay yourself first, and then start paying your other bills, making sure that your other bills and lifestyle expenses don't get so high that you can't keep paying yourself first. That's goes back to, there's a book written called The Richest Man in Babylon. It was written in 1926. And its most important principle was invest 10% in yourself first before you do anything else. That rings true today, forever. That's the most important principle. Mutual funds. Mutual funds are great tools, great vehicles. They give you diversification, which is protection. They give you professional management. You have usually a team of stock pickers behind that mutual fund, deciding which stocks to buy and sell. And it's cost effective. It can be cost effective. We'll get to a point here to be careful of fees, but it can and should be cost effective. As opposed to you trying to pick and choose individual stocks. That has become Russian roulette or gambling. The stock market is extremely volatile with individual stocks. It's volatile as a broad index, but when you start picking and choosing individual stocks, don't try to get caught in the get rich quick, scenario of, hey, this stock is going to be a killer and this is how I'm going to grow my money. Play that defense first. Defense means not getting hurt financially. So don't try to pick and choose individual stocks. Stick to professional, diversified money managers via mutual funds. Diversification, what does that mean? It means not all your investments in one type of fund. Diversification means, well, there are stock funds, there are bond funds, there are aggressive small company stock funds versus more moderate, large company, dividend-paying stock funds, which have less volatility. Over time, they might have a little less growth than a aggressive growth, small company-oriented fund, but they smooth out the returns. A proper portfolio, and by definition, a portfolio means a collection of different investments, is going to smooth out your returns and make it a more comfortable ride. And then that helps eliminate those emotional decisions of doing the wrong thing at the wrong time. So diversification is very key. Be tax efficient. That's Andy and Bill showed you the numbers. Tax efficient means giving the government the least amount of tax money that you can today, enjoying the tax deferment, which means you're not paying taxes on it now, you're pushing it off and off and off, enjoying that tax deferment so that you have more money in your accounts growing for you. And then again, you're pushing it off, so you're paying the tax bill much later down the road. Means there's more money in your pocket growing for you now. So be as tax efficient as you can. Retirement accounts are a huge help. I'll reiterate, not all of your money can and should be in retirement accounts, because you're going to have financial goals that you don't want to pull out of retirement accounts for. You do get penalized by the IRS by pulling money out of these retirement accounts early. And by early, it's generally 59 and a half. There are some rules to get around that. A first-time home purchase, you can use retirement accounts and avoid that extra penalty. But it's still going to be, you're taking money out of that tax-deferred bucket. So you got to balance things off. Save and invest in some regular taxable accounts along the way also for the more near-term financial goals. Beware of high fees. There are fees. You should have, you can't, this is complicated stuff. It doesn't need to be overcomplicated. But I would highly recommend that you don't do it alone. You do it with a team. And I said earlier, your most important teammate is your spouse, because he or she needs to be on board with the game plan. But then you should have, you definitely should have an accountant helping you be tax efficient and tax smart along the way, which means during the course of the year, touching base with your accountant and making sure what you're doing is tax efficient. And then you should have a retirement plan specialist, guys like Andy and Bill, helping you build and maximize your contributions into the proper retirement plan. And you should have a financial advisor. I don't want this to be a plug, an advertisement for me or my team, but you should have a financial advisor because, and your fee should, I would be targeting that 1% or less. But I would highly recommend that that's money well spent to avoid the pitfalls and help maximize and help put you onto this long-term financial plan and success. Most important with any of your advisors, your teammates, you got to be open and honest. You have to trust them, and that trust means being open and honest with everything you're doing financially. It's most important, going back to your spouse. I've seen, you know, I really do enjoy what I do. My experience is not just my experience. My experience is I enjoy being observant and hopefully smart enough to see what works and what doesn't work over time with our successful clients. I've seen many successful clients have unsuccessful kids because they're I'm sounding like a broken record, but because the kids spend too much and think there's a get-rich-quick scheme out there. And then I've seen many successful folks get there just from hard work and sticking to the simple. Doesn't have to be overcomplicated, but the folks who are just saving a bit each and every month, that works. It works over time. It's pretty simple. So don't overcomplicate it, but I would say get a team. Utilize your accountant, make sure you're maximizing use of different retirement plans, and have a financial planner sort of be the quarterback and an investment coach with you. I would read up on it. I put 3 books down here. They're quick and easy reads. The Millionaire Next Door was written in 1996 by Thomas Stanley. Talks about, and again, we have experience. We have clients who are plumbers and electricians and contractors, and these guys aren't making a ton of money, but they're saving money along the way. That's the most key ingredient. The other book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is really interesting. There's a guy, the author, Robert Kiyosaki, born and raised in Hawaii. He had 2 fathers because he was adopted, but he kept in touch with his birth father. His birth father didn't have a lot of money, wasn't well educated, but had a lot of common sense. His adopted father was a very well-off, successful guy, and so the author was taking advice from both fathers along the way, and he documented. He realized, you know what? There's advice from that quote rich dads can and should give their kids along the way that the traditional educational system is not giving them. The book is real. I find it really interesting. It's almost 10 years old, but it's still pertinent today. It's again a quick and easy read. The last book, Common Sense Investing, Jack Bogle. You recognize his name. He's the founder of Vanguard. He's on CNBC often. He's in his mid 80s now. But he's often referred to as sort of the grandfather of mutual fund and common sense investing. His huge focus is all about fees. Don't let investment fees whittle away your hard-earned savings and investments. It's a great, simple book. Give it a quick read. You will benefit from it. That's it on the outline. Are there any questions before we hand it over to Paul? Maybe we hand it to Paul and then there'll be collective questions. Yeah.
Talking about credit card interest and a 401k, can you borrow off of your own 401k?
Yes, you shouldn't.
Okay.
Borrowing against the 401k should be sort of the last resort place to tap into.
But can you borrow money, say you want to borrow $1,000, like is it smart to borrow money as opposed to running up your credit card to $1,000 and paying your own interest to yourself?
Yes,
basically?
it is. It is. But that does help. It gets you out of that 20% interest on the credit card. But don't let it be a habit, because what that means is you're spending more than you're earning. So knock off the credit card by borrowing out of the 401k, but pay back the 401k as quickly as you can, and then don't get back into the same habit of racking up the credit card. Yep.
I had a question. You were talking about the life insurances, like term versus whole. Is there ever a situation where whole is a better plan? You know, you said that the term is a good, efficient way, but you know, from my understanding, the term like restrictions and the payouts, it just didn't make much sense when you have a family that you have that like small little window basically to pass away in. There are other ways the benefits go away. It's kind of like renting versus owning, at least in my mind.
That's a really good sales pitch for whole life, but whole life will cost an awful lot more.
I know, yeah, the cost is way more, because I'm kind of going through that situation right now, whether to decide, because right now we have just, you know, basic term, but, you know, we're looking to invest more, you know, kids, things like that.
I would highly recommend stick with term for your insurance, and then take the difference. If, let's say it's going to cost you $2,500 for whole life versus $1,000 for term. Stick with term for the time frame that you need that insurance. We call it 25 or 30 years, depending on how young your kids are.
Yeah.
And then invest the difference. Take that. It was going to cost you $2,500. Take that $1,500 and save and invest it in a regular account. Your fees are going to be dramatically less than all the embedded fees in that whole life policy. Whole life is good for estate planning purposes. We're not there. We start to look at estate planning insurance for clients who are 55 and older. You don't want to do it when they're too old, because then the insurance is very expensive. But if they're 55 and older and have a $5 million or more estate that you know eventually is going to be there, then whole life insurance is very helpful. But until you're there, don't bother with it. The salespeople will.
Yeah, they're talking all about retirement, like they're basically using it as a retirement strategy.
It's a catch-all plan.
Yeah.
And it's bad. It's inefficient at all of those. So I wouldn't get caught up in that.
Okay.
Yep.
What about the kids' whole life insurance policy?
No way.
No?
That's another pitch. What,
Is it?
kids don't need life insurance. It's a huge pitch for the insurance guy to make a commission. Kids do not need life insurance. What are you insuring?
Well, they're saying they invest, it's like investment, like you said.
Yeah.
It's great to invest for kids. They're young. They have so invest for them in a regular account. Don't get caught up in all the fees and the garbage of insurance. Yeah.
What you said on here, beware high fees, target 1%. That's the fee that your financial advisor would take out annually.
Right.
That's what you were referencing.
Right. The mutual funds, so there are 2 fees, there could be 3 fees to investing. Your planner, okay? And I do recommend you get a planner. I think 1% is a little bit low for industry standards. Usually it's around 1.5%, but I think that's on the high side. I target 1% for your planner. Your mutual funds have embedded fees. Don't use funds that have a cost to buy or a cost to sell. Those are transaction fees or commission fees.
That go to the financial advisor.
It's split. It's split between the financial advisor and the fund company. You can use, if you're going to charge, if the financial planner is going to charge 1%, you should have no transaction fees to buy or sell a mutual fund or a stock, no commissions embedded in it, and then look at funds that have the internal expense to be very low. There are index-oriented funds that have an internal expense of less than 0.5%, and they could be 0.15%. They could be very low, which just means more of your money is working for you. Yep.
What percentage of an income do you think should go towards a Roth? I know you said 10% should be saved, but should that Roth be included in that 10%? or I'm sorry, like not just a Roth, but more, you know.
Any retirement plan.
Yes.
10% is sort of the slice that 10% into partially retirement plans, partially non-retirement plans.
Okay.
The younger you are, the more you should put into the retirement plan. If you're young and you don't have a spouse, and conceptually you say, hey, a spouse is 5 years down the road, well then I would put as much as you can into the retirement plan. You're starting early into a retirement plan is a huge help to let that grow tax deferred for many years. Then at some point you find a spouse and you say, okay honey, let's start to save for that 5-year plan on the house. Then take, maybe it's only 5% going to retirement and then 5% going to non-retirement to cover those near-term goals.
Okay. Thank you.
Let me switch it over to Paul, and then we'll open up to all questions.
Thanks, Kyle.